great good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever it may be for you. All right, we have lesson 87 today. We are factoring terms, we're factoring polynomials with 4 terms. We haven't done this before. Okay, we're going to do what's called factoring by grouping. Now, I think you're going to like this because when we had some of those trinomials where the a had a coefficient other than 1, they became difficult and we were having a hard time. And there were several possibilities. Well, you can factor by grouping and save yourself some time with those. And we're going to look at these 4 term factors. All right, now we look at this. We look at these 4 terms. None of them, they do not all share a common factor. But if we put them in groups of 2, we look that these 2 terms have a common factor of, what is it?
Wait, what?
I'm not talking to you. Joe keeps thinking I'm talking to him. I'm really talking to you that are watching the video. But we do have a common factor of 2x. Yes, you got it. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're thinking, who are you talking to? And we look at this, 7x and 14y. They both have a common factor of 7, right, Joe? Yeah, you knew that. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to factor these out in groups. Okay, I got these arrows going in funky places. Make it a little bit bigger. All right, so we look here. We factor this out. We're going to factor out a 2x with this term. So what would we have left over? Well, I took out a factor of 2 and x. I'd have an x factor left over. All right, we took out 2 and x of this one. We'd have a factor of 2 and y. So write this. So if we were to distribute it, we get right back to where we started with. All right, do the same thing with this. We're adding, so plus, take out a factor of 7. What do we have left over? Factor of x, 2y. So if I were to distribute, it's the same thing. When I distribute it, we're just using this process of factoring. That'll help us solve and make things easier later down the road. Now we look at this now. Okay, they both have a factor of x plus 2y. Now we experienced this before. We can take that x plus 2y and take it out. All right, so we're going to do that. Okay, if we take the x plus 2y out, well, what do we need to distribute it to make this the same? We need to distribute it to 2x. All right, so it would be 2x. All right, took this x plus 2y out. What do we need to distribute it? The 7. So the 2x and the 7 go there and there. All right, and then we have that factor. Okay, just a couple of step problem. Factoring by grouping. All right, this is not needful information. These are problems we went over for them last year. All right, rearranging before grouping. All right, we look at these 4 terms. Okay, we look 3y squared, 8y cubed minus 8y plus 3. Well, we look at, okay, these do have a common factor of y, but these do not have a common factor. So what we may have to do is rearrange these in an order so that we can group them together. All right, now these both have a factor of, I look at 8 and y, and these both have a factor of 3. So it would be better if we pair those up and rearrange. Whoa, where are we going here? All right. Okay, it would be better if we pair these up here. Make sure I'm staying out of the way. Okay, and those 2 terms. So we'll rearrange those and write those in an order that will enable us to factor them by grouping. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and erase this. Get that out of there. All right, so we see how I did it. Okay, we arrange these 2 because they both have a factor of 3. We can arrange these because they both have a factor of 8, both have a factor of y. Now, you may say, hey, sometimes there's a couple different ways to rearrange them so that we could factor them by grouping, and that's okay. It'll still give us the same answer as long as both groups have common factors. All right, so we look at this one. Common factor of 3. So we take that out. Okay, we look at this one. Greatest common factor. They both have a factor of negative 8. Okay, and they both have a factor of y. So we take that out. We get y squared plus 1. Look at that. Y squared plus 1, common factor in both. So we factor that out. All right, what do we have to distribute to get back to this? Well, we need a 3. Okay, what do we need to distribute to get this? We have a minus 8y. All right, so there we go. We factored this one. How to rearrange it. So an extra step in there, but really done the same way. All right, now what we should be thinking about in factoring, and a lot of times we forget about it because we don't have to do it all the time, is the greatest common factor. If we look at the four terms, we can't assume that they don't have a common factor. We look at this, they do have a common factor. All right, all of these have a factor of 5, and they all have a factor of a squared. All right, so I'm going to factor that out. Okay, factor out your 5a squared. Then we're going to write inside here what we would need to distribute it to keep the same value. So you took a factor of 5 out, you still have a factor of 9 that you're missing, factor of a, factor of b. We do every term like that the same way. Okay, now we look in here. Now we have 4 terms like we started off with. Okay, 4 terms, we're going to factor these now by grouping. Those two have a common factor. This one doesn't. Okay, can I rearrange it in a different way to group those so that they do? No. So we're just going to do that for now, and we'll see what happens. All right, well, if we look at the common factor of 3a, if we factor that out, okay, you've got 3b minus 1 here. And we have 3b minus 1 there. All right, so we do have a common factor. So we're going to factor that 3b minus 1 out inside the parentheses. All right, well, what other factors do we need? We had a 3a here. We didn't have anything there, but if I'm going to distribute, I'm going to have to multiply it by 1. All right, and there we go. Completely factored out. New step was taking out, make sure that we check the greatest common factor first. All right, a little bit different type here. All right, we start off with 4. We look, does it have any common factors? It doesn't, okay? So since it doesn't have any common factors, we're going to group them. And they have it nice in the right order we want it in here. All right, we factor out here the first 2 terms. You've got a common factor of 3a. The second 2 terms, we have a factor of 5. Now, here's our dilemma. These 2 factors are not the same. They look close to being the same, but they're not the same. What is the relationship? How are those 2 different? What do you think, Joe? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah.
What's different about them?
The A, B's on the different side.
Okay, that's a good observation. They are switched, which is okay. We can have them switched, but anything else differently. Look at the signs in front of them. We look at the 6, it's a minus in front of it. This one's a plus. This AB doesn't have a sign in front of it, meaning it's positive. This one has a minus, it's negative AB. They are what? And hopefully you're saying they are opposites. Okay? They are opposites. So what do we do when we have opposites? Because if they are opposites, we can make them the same. All right, now let's do this. So if we want the opposite sign inside of here, if we take that plus and make it a minus, okay, wouldn't that change the signs inside? Yes, it would. All right, so that's what we're going to do. All right, I think, do I have a little, I think that arrow was in a different slide. All right, but if we look at this, okay, we've got the plus, I make it a minus. Now, if I have a minus sign, this was originally positive 30. If I take minus 5, if I kept it as 6, it would be negative 30, so I change it to a minus 6. Okay, that minus on the outside, if I were to distribute it, okay, it was minus, but I need it to be positive, so if I distribute it, I would get minus 5ab. Now we look at these. Although the order is different, those are exactly the same. Okay, we can switch the order. So now I can factor out a common factor of ab minus 6. So we take that out. Once you take the ab minus 6 out, well, we need to go backwards and distribute it to a 3a. You've got ab minus 6. We need to go backwards and distribute it to a minus 5. And now I've factored that out completely. So that's how to deal with opposites. All right, if we have an opposite, we're going to change the sign out in front, and that'll change the signs inside the parentheses. All right, factoring each trinomial by grouping. Okay, so here's a new strategy that we're going to learn now. This one we can factor, we know our rules with, so I'm not going to bother it. I think it's a longer process. All right, but we'll look at this b. Man, that's big. Hopefully you can see that. You probably like it big. On the video, it's hard to see. By the way, if you come across the video and you can't read it because it's so small, but you want to, remember you can always follow along in your book. They're the same problems, same examples. I just turn to the lesson and you can follow along. And you remember you can always stop me, slow me down anytime you want. That's the nice thing about a video. All right, so we look at this. Now, here's a strategy we're going to look at. First thing we're going to do in the equation, okay, you've got what is, they're all in this form. Okay, ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, they're all in that form. The a, b, and c are the numbers. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to take the a, the 6, and the 10, and we're going to multiply them together. All right, we multiply them together, we get 60. Okay? All right, then we're going to ask ourselves factors of 60. Now, if you remember the signs of these, okay, if we're going to figure out the signs of a problem like this, since that's positive and that's negative, remember it's going to be negative, negative. Okay, so after we multiply it by 60, we're going to look at the factors of 60, but we want both of them to be negative. So I wrote out a few here. Negative 6 times negative 10 would give me 60. Negative 5 times negative 12 gives me positive 60, sorry. Negative 60 times negative 1 gives me positive 60. So we look at all those. All right, now here's the thing. Maybe you've noticed it. If I took the sum of those two factors, do any of them give me a negative 17? Well, negative 6 plus negative 10 is actually negative 16. Negative 5 plus negative 12 is negative 17. So I'm going to use that fact then to help me factor by grouping. So it's going to be systematic. We're not going to have to just guess all these values, which maybe you're pretty good at and maybe you prefer, but if you can't, this will be a little bit better of a strategy. Now here's what I'm going to do with the negative 5, and oh, this is where the arrow is. Ooh, find the arrow, there it is. Okay, since it's negative 17k, we're just going to have to add the variable. All right, we're going to make this a 4-term polynomial. Okay, we've got minus 5k and minus 12k. We're going to change those into that. And then we can factor it by grouping. And we'll have one systematic way, just a few steps, and we'll be able to solve this. All right, so now, do I need to rearrange these? Okay, those two, they do have a common factor of 5. But look at this. Their common factor is 2. Wouldn't it be better? Oh, I've got 6 and 12. I've got 5 and 10. That would be a better way to group them, okay? So I'm going to move it around. Make sure that you keep the sign attached in front of it with the other one. So you've got minus 12k on there. All right, look at this common factor. Yes, it does. Okay, you've got a common factor of 6k. Factor that out, you get k minus 2. This got a common factor of 5. Now, I already did it because I knew. I took out a minus 5 because I knew I needed to be k minus 2. If you took up plus 5, you would have got an opposite. Anytime you have an opposite, remember you can change the sign and then change the signs inside of it. All right, we learned that strategy before. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side. Same thing we've done with all the other problems. Okay? We take out the common factor of k minus 2. We take that, factor it out. Okay, inside what do we have left? We have a factor of 6k. We have a factor of minus 5. All right, and that's factoring by grouping. Hopefully you have a good night.